So welcome everyone. We've just started our live broadcast looking at technology and hearing loss. I'm going to wait a few moments just to allow for everyone to have an opportunity to join us. But we've got a really amazing lineup today. I'm very excited about the webinar. We've got a couple of exclusive pre-recorded sessions which we'll be sharing with you, and then we have Mark here from Signlane and Jassal from the RNID, who is going to give us loads of really rich information, I know, about the types of assistive technology that can support people. So I'll just keep an eye on the participant numbers, and when they start to level off, we'll do proper introductions, housekeeping. In the meantime, if you do have any technical queries, please do use the Q&A button. My colleague Chris Grant is in the background, and he'll be able to help you out with any technical niggles and glitches. As you can see, we've got BSL today. Please do pin the signer to Zoom if you need that support there. So the numbers are just still going up. Just noticed I didn't put my name on the opening slide. So I'm Sarah. I'm from AbilityNet, and we are hosting the webinar today. And I said really excited to be doing so. I work in the marketing team, and I'm just here to facilitate all the great speakers that we've got. And I will be handing over to them as soon as possible, because I'm sure you'd rather hear from them than from me. So participants are still just climbing up, but I will make a start, because there's that little bit of housekeeping first, and then we can get into the meat of the session. So, as I said, we've got some fantastic speakers today. Unfortunately, Rachel from Lloyds Banking Group is on holiday and can't be with us today. But she has pre-recorded a video exclusively for us, and we'll be coming to that very soon. Mark, I'm delighted that Mark has joined today, and he's been really supportive in terms of getting these great lineup of speakers together. Mark's co-founder at Signlane. And then we'll be passing to another video of Victoria, who is one of Mark's customers, who will present a demo and talk about how Microsoft is embracing this technology. And then we'll be over to Jassal to talk through some of that assistive tech. And then I'm hoping that we will have plenty of time for your questions and answers at the end. Mark will field any specifically questions to do with Signlane. And we've got Chris in the background as well, who's very knowledgeable also about assistive technology. So in terms of housekeeping, as you can see, we have live captions coming up at the bottom of the screen. BSL is available throughout the webinar. Please do use the Q&A window to ask questions. That could be tech help that you need or questions for later on. We'll be fielding questions to the panelists, and we'll follow up on that afterwards. We have turned off the chat window. That's just to make it easier for us to just have that one channel to monitor, but there are also some accessibility reasons for that. Anyone who's using a screen reader tends to read out everything that goes in the chat that can be distracting. You'll receive slides, a transcript and a recording after the webinar, and you'll be notified about that via email. So if you miss anything, you'll be able to watch the recording there. And the link will also include a link to a SurveyMonkey so that you can give us feedback, and we really welcome that. We aim to improve these webinars as much as we can. So, as I said, we'll just be having a very brief introduction to AbilityNet, hearing from Rachel about the business case for inclusion. We'll be talking about Signlane, Microsoft case study on how they're using it, and then we'll be hearing from the RNID and then that Q&A. So yeah, this is a welcome to our panelists again. Thank them all for their time today and also for their time in prepping. In terms of our own services, we truly believe in a digital world accessible to all. And there's a quote that I like to use, which is that, you know, today the digital world is the world for a lot of people. We're all accessing products and services online. And it's really important that there is equal access to that. And that goes to the core of everything that AbilityNet does. In terms of our free services, we have a team of over 300 volunteers who support people at home in terms of signposting to assistive technology. We can provide remote support in terms of adapting tech so that it works for your individual needs. And we are beginning to do some face-to-face services as we slowly return to normal. And we're really delighted to be doing that as well. We also have accessibility products and services. And that is our consultancy services. So we work with web developers, app developers to make sure that their digital products are accessible to all. We support people in education. We have a range of workplace services, and we also have two flagship shows. TechShare Pro is the largest UK event in terms of convening people from the accessibility community to talk about some of the important issues that are shaping the digital world. And we'll be hosting that again in November this year. So this is a more in-depth look at free services for individuals. I'm not going to go through everything here, but the slide deck will be available afterwards. There's a number there for our free helpline. As I said, we're resuming our in-person support. We'll be continuing with remote support. We have a range of free services online including My Computer, My Way, and that gives step-by-step guidance on how to adapt a range of technical devices for your individual needs. We run regular blogs. We have free fact sheets, including one on hearing loss. And this is part of our series of free webinars for AbilityNet Live. And then in the background, there's lots of community work, fundraising and corporate relationship building happening as well. So I'm going to pass over virtually to Rachel now, who, as I say, recorded this for me before she went on holiday from Lloyds Bank. So I will, first, sorry, there's some statistics. So this is just to highlight the fact that there is a genuine need, and I know Mark will talk about this later, this unrecognised need still for 11 million people to have access to a range of services. There are approximately 151,000 people in the UK using British Sign Language, and of those, 87,000 are deaf, and around 12,000 people in the UK using cochlear implants. So I'm going to hand over to the video from Rachel now. She works in the Responsible Business Division at Lloyds Bank and is a really passionate advocate, as you'll find out shortly, for these types of services. Rachel is a child of deaf adults. She communicates using British Sign Language, and she's really passionate. I can definitely speak for that, and you'll see that as we flag up the video now. So I'll hand over virtually to Rachel.
There's no sound, Sarah.
You're on mute, Sarah.
Yeah, okay, let's try again.
There is often a range of needs, and I think it's really important for businesses to think about that. So, for example, there may be somebody who was born profoundly deaf who is a British Sign Language user, and they will require a British Sign Language interpreter if they go into a branch or into the store. They potentially would need sign video service to make a telephone call. You know, how do they read your information on the website? Because British Sign Language sentence structure is different to English. So thinking about how do they read your letters, how do they read your emails, how do they read your website? Somebody who may have hearing loss, they may actually be able to use verbal communication quite clearly because they lost their hearing at a younger age, which would mean that they do have very good speech. There may also be somebody that can just use SMS or relay service because they're more confident in using the written language of English. How do they communicate with you if they need to make a telephone call? So there's lots of different services that are available to support a range of needs.
And what do you see as the business case for making services accessible to all of your customers?
I supported my mum and dad during lockdown to access shopping online. Phone numbers weren't accessible for the deaf community, especially if you're a BSL user. There was no sign video option there. We went to the store to go and click and collect. And when we arrived, we pulled up into the click and collect a car parking space. And the sign in front of us said, please ring this telephone number to let us know that you're here. Not even an SMS text. So, you know, that for me is the end-to-end journey. Accessible design isn't separate. If we've designed a video conference, that has supported people that can't get into a branch during COVID, but actually that would have supported people not being able to go into a branch pre-COVID. We should be considering inclusive design, so it's open for all needs at every stage. From a finance point of view, people may have funds to invest or save, and there could be that they're looking to buy their own home and need some support to buy their own home, but don't quite know how to do that.
So how does Lloyds Bank support the deaf and hard of hearing communities?
From Lloyds Banking's point of view, we have looked at the deaf community and looked to see how they want to access our products and services. And we have Signlane on our website where that enables a BSL user to go onto the website and select what text they would like or pages and request pages to be translated into British Sign Language. Lloyds was the first ones in 2012 to launch sign video service as well. With our websites and our videos, we are captioning our videos. We've developed our financial education material so that it considers a range of needs across a range of disabilities, but also includes the British Sign Language translations and captions as well.
Has COVID accelerated the need for accessible digital services?
COVID has really brought on the digital needs, so people have just moved to the digital channel, and you can see that with people transactions, and I think for us, yes, that's a great opportunity to support customers through the digital channel. I am excited by the future. COVID has enabled us to go faster. What I'm seeing just in the UK, but in Europe and globally as well, there is increased interest in this. There's more momentum than I've ever seen before.
Okay, so virtual thank you to Rachel there. And now I will just hand over to Mark just to tell us a bit more about Signlane, which featured in Rachel's video there. So Mark, welcome. Really delighted to have you here. Perhaps you could start, and I know your journey does partly start with Lloyds Bank. Tell us why you began Signlane and how that came about.
Well, it starts a little bit before Lloyds Bank, to be honest. And first of all, I need to say that I don't in any way speak for the deaf community. This is just my personal story. I was working in digital, doing digital work for corporate, but my agency also partnered with a deaf charity, DeafAx. And it was it was DefHacks that really sort of opened my eyes to issues that I'd never heard of. I felt quite embarrassed. I'd never really heard or known much about deaf community, about deaf culture, about a demographic for whom sign language is their first and preferred language. I just had this ignorant assumption that if you wrote stuff down, that might be okay in English. And the charity were really sort of patient with me explaining that. And I just thought, how come I'm 40 something years old and nobody's explained this? It felt wrong. And so my agency used to do pro bono work for the charity, and they said, oh, can you make us an app? So in my day job, I was using augmented reality. In the first instance, we, just as a hobby project, added sign language to leaflets. Roald Dahl Museum decided to use that in the museum for deaf schools so that they could have like a BSL tour. Incredibly, BBC News then pick up a press release about this. It ends up on BBC Breakfast for 5 minutes. And then the following week, Lloyd's phone and say, can we show this to our deaf customers? So suddenly something that we were literally doing in our spare time is being looked at by Lloyd's, who invited deaf customers who liked the basic idea, but said, well, actually, could you move the sign language onto our website, onto Lloyd's website? It would make more sense to have a digital first approach. So Lloyd's literally look at me at the meeting and say, do you think you can port the technology? And I said, yes, I think we can if you help us. So I shut my agency and focused on porting the technology. And we're at the stage now where we think possibly in terms of volume of sign language, Lloyd's is one of the world's most deaf-friendly websites.
That's a fantastic story. Thank you for sharing it with us, Mark. And I think it just encapsulates that sort of spirit of openness to that feedback, really, which, you were willing to admit what you didn't know and to run with it. And you had that kind of digital background and skills and experience to bring that to fruition. So fast forward to today, where are you now?
We've had a lot of support from Microsoft in terms of scaling the technology. They put us through their AI for Good accelerator, which really helped. We're working with deaf-led organisations in Australia. There's a keen appetite to increase access. So that's positive. And also Microsoft in the States, Microsoft in the UK are looking at whether they can do a better job of mainstreaming access to sign language. So yeah, we're doing okay.
That's great to hear. And what does the future hold? I know we heard Rachel saying that she was, or she is excited about the future, but I know there's that genuine need and your own passion for accelerating this message and a need to really embrace the deaf community and to make sure that all digital services are accessible. So what does the future look like in terms of Signlane, but generally for you, do you think?
Well, I think if I go back to my story and where I was 4 or 5 years ago, the bit that I couldn't understand about the lack of access potentially for deaf signers is that for blind and low vision users, there's so much provision. Screen readers are ubiquitous. There's smart canes, Microsoft Seeing AI, Braille, large print audio description. There's so much stuff. And it just felt like technology, it is not a panacea. It's not a solution for all of this, but it has a role to play. So, I mean, in terms of the future more broadly, I think it would be good if there was more mainstream access to sign language and technology can play a role. For Signlane specifically, I'm kind of getting to the stage where I've done the technology bit, which was the bit that I was good at, and we need to think about how we start to transition Signlane to be deaf-led, and we're starting that process in Australia already.
That's fantastic news. And in terms of, you mentioned Microsoft, I'm going to pass over to Victoria Oates from Microsoft now to give us a bit of a discussion. And one of the things that she talks about is the fact that Signlane makes it very easy to embed. So just to pick up on that thread there, I wonder if there's anything that you would add to that before I hand over in terms of, this is a tech solution, as you say, it's not a panacea, but anyone who has concerns about how to do it, what would you say to them?
But for any idea to scale across the piece, it has to be quick, easy and affordable. So I used that knowledge that I had from digital when we created Signlane. So the integration with Microsoft, we handed over the code on Monday. They integrated the code on Tuesday, and the deaf translators were working on content on Thursday, which went live on Friday. So it was pretty pacey and easy.
That's fantastic. And I know Victoria will back you up on that virtually now. So I will, without further ado, hand over to her. But thank you very much for now, Mark.
Thank you.
So just to introduce Victoria in her absence, unfortunately, she can't be here today either. She works in the storytelling and digital destinations lead at Microsoft UK. She is really keen that those stories reach everybody in the community, really cares about content being useful, interesting, easy to digest and accessible. And she was very kind to spare some time with me and to talk about Signlane and how Microsoft integrated that. So I'll hand over to her video now.
Hi, I'm Victoria, Victoria Oakes. I work at Microsoft and I'm the Storytelling and Digital Destinations Manager. So that means I manage all of our content and websites for the UK. I'm a white lady in my 30s and really happy to be here today. I've also got a Microsoft background behind me. We believe in economic opportunity for all. A study revealed that the UK economy could lose 36.6 billion a year in economic output if we don't include deaf and hearing loss people in our economy and our so it's really important. We would always translate content in other languages, so why not BSL? Finally, we're part of our AI for Good programme late last year, and we were really impressed with the technology that they had to offer. So the technology being, you know, translating our website content into sign language and BSL. We wanted to then do a UK pilot with them, and that really supports us to address that accessibility gap. We don't want anyone left behind. We managed to do it really quickly. We implemented it within a week. So it just took a bit of planning time, but the tech is really easy to use as well. We wanted to do a social value report with Signlane to see what the impact is on society and deaf people, and to see if this tech could really work. Themes are kind of like, we feel more equal, we feel included. You know, it's good to get content in our language. One of the quotes that stood out for me was, I think this is really good because I could get information myself. It's been over 30 years of me having to have the same conversation again and again. Deaf people can't always rely on interpreters. The people in the panel were saying how, you know, it needs to be everywhere. So for Microsoft, we really want to lead the way and hope that others pick up on this sort of technology. I think there's over 1 billion plus people with disabilities, and Microsoft want to make sure they're included. And we think it can be a real differentiator for brands as well. Hi, I'm Victoria.
So thank you again there to Victoria, and just echoing the fact that implementing that solution was relatively straightforward. Jassal, I'd like to invite you to join us, pop yourself off mute, from the RNID. And I know that you are going to talk specifically to us about the breadth of tech that's available. To echo what Mark is saying, it's not a panacea, but there are lots of tools out there that can support people in accessing the digital world. So rather than read this out, as you're with us today, I'd like you to just invite you to just introduce yourself and your role at RNID.
Sure. I'm Jassal. I work at RNID. I've been working at RNID for almost 7 years now in this space, so quite a bit of knowledge about assistive tech. My role is mainly to work with users, so people who experience deafness, hearing loss and tinnitus, really get an idea of where they're struggling, what works, and where there are gaps to try and fill that gap with new technology. So it's very much around informing people of what exists and where there are gaps to try and find some new innovation, kind of like what Mark has done, and then to make people aware of that. So that's the bulk of what I do. And then a little bit about it is also policy, so influencing government to make sure that they make the most of what's available. And you know, technology can be quite expensive, so it's to make sure that government also makes it as available as possible without the cost falling on the user themselves.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I know you've kindly provided some slides for us. So if you would just like to let me know when you want me to move forward, and I'll hand it to you.
Thanks, Sarah. So I just want to take a little bit of a step back and just kind of give you a visual representation of what hearing loss actually is and what a typical person with hearing loss would experience in their day-to-day life. So this picture is of a very busy environment. It's a train station, lots of people, very echoey, a very difficult listening situation, even for someone with normal hearing, but then the additional difficulty for someone with hearing loss. So if we go on to the next slide. We're going to use this gentleman at the front as our example. So he's got a typical hearing loss, which would be somewhere kind of mild to moderate is how we describe it. And typically, as you get older, you start losing the ability to hear your high frequencies, so those high pitch sounds. And with that comes the loss of clarity in speech. So you know something's going on, you can hear all the noise, but picking up the clarity can become quite difficult. If we move on to the next slide. So he's sitting in between two people that he wants to talk to. And that can be quite difficult when you're in that busy environment. So when you have hearing loss, we'll move on to the next slide. This is typically what happens. Everything becomes quite dim and it's really hard to pick out what it is that you want to hear. If we move on to the next slide. The most common way to manage a hearing loss, and one of the most successful ways to manage a hearing loss, is to wear hearing aids. So what hearing aids typically do is they give you that clarity back. However, they can be limited. So they work really well when there's no noise, just a couple of people talking. But as soon as you're in this kind of difficult situation, they can be limiting. So from the picture, you'll see that you get some of that clarity back, you get some of that vision back, but it's not as crisp as it would be if you had normal hearing. If we go on to the next slide. So assistive tech essentially helps you pick out clarity of the person or a group of people that you want to hear. So in this situation, if this gentleman was using an assistive tech device, he would be able to pick up the person next to him, try and reduce that background noise as much as possible, and really pick out the speech sound that he wants to hear. If we move on to the next one. So I'm just going to spend the last few minutes talking about the different types of assistive technology that are available, the most common types. The first one you may have seen as you go around to most public places, you'll see this loop or telecoil sign. And what that means is you'll have a microphone that's attached, say, for example, if you're at the bank. And with that microphone, you can hear the sound directly either into your hearing aid or through a receiver like headphones if they have a telecoil as well. And what that does is it reduces all that background noise and it helps you again pick out that specific speech sound that you want to hear. They're also available on telephones. So a lot of people won't realize their mobiles, smartphones, as well as specific landline phones will also have this telecoil option. So what you tend to find is as hearing loss gradually goes, you start using visual cues without realizing, you'll start lip reading without realizing and things like that. So when you're on the telephone, as soon as you can't see the person, it becomes quite difficult to understand what's going on. So things like the loop on a telephone can really help improve that clarity as well. The second type of assistive technology is what we call a remote microphone. And what this does is it essentially removes the distance between yourself and the person you want to hear. So if we use that train station example, there's a lot of noise and sometimes the person can be a little bit further away and all that noise comes into your ears before the speech of the person you want to talk to. So if you attach the microphone, typically you clip it to someone's clothing or they wear it around their neck, and then you'll be able to hear them more clearly above the background noise. This tends to be the most useful if you're at a conference or something like that when the person is quite far away. So you'll really be able to hear what they're saying as if they were talking directly into your ear. The third type is what we call amplified phones. These are typically landline phones, and they do kind of what the name says, they make everything louder. Again, it's really helpful on the telephone, and most of them won't just amplify sound, they will have some level of personalization where you can adjust the tone specifically. So again, you can boost those higher pitched sounds to give you some of that clarity back. The fourth type is what we call alerting devices. Now, these can come into two categories. So they can be safety critical, like fire and smoke alarms. And what that does is when the fire or smoke alarm goes off, you'll get a flashing light to tell you that you need to act, an alarm's gone off. or you'll get a vibrating pad that typically goes under your bed when you're sleeping so that you're alerted when there's sounds that you can't hear. I'm just going to pause because I think they need to change interpreters. Okay, so those are your kind of fire safety critical alerting. And then there's the normal everyday alerting sounds. So most of us probably take it for granted that we can hear the doorbell when it rings, but for someone with hearing loss, they will typically miss these kind of alerting sounds. So again, you get kind of alerting devices that will use flashing lights or some other mode of alerting you to say that there's someone at the door, or your kind of kitchen appliance noise is going off. So typically you can get lots of different types. Traditionally, there used to be quite fixed devices and very specific to a certain device, like a doorbell, for example. But now, with smart home technology evolving, this has become really mainstream. So if we think about something like the Ring doorbell, it was never designed for people with hearing loss, but being able to see that person on video and getting an alert on your smartphone means that they're getting the alert that they need in the way that they want to use it. So that's really improved things in terms of alerting people, especially in the home, to the different sounds that are going on around them. The last kind of section I want to cover is smartphones. Smartphones has made a huge difference to most people with disabilities, and that includes people with hearing loss and deafness. Most people won't realize this, but on their smartphones, you'll often have an accessibility folder, and within that, there'll be hearing enhancement features. This will typically, again, be things like extra volume boost, or a lot of the time, they're now starting to personalize the sound. So you can really set the different tones and increase the volume where you need it, rather than just amplifying everything. Along with kind of the accessibility features of audio enhancement, you also often get live captions. So most of the phones will have their own live captioning system, which will often be used for videos that you watch on your phone, like YouTube. And then some of them will even allow you to caption things like voicemail or voice calls, but these are quite specific in different devices. Along with accessibility features, there's always apps. There are so many apps out there that can help people with hearing loss. Again, there'll be specific ones that help with alerting people. There'll be the live captions when you're out and about and you want to talk to someone and you can't quite hear what they're saying. You can use live captions in that type of environment. So there are lots of different apps that can help people as well. And I think once you start looking through all of these things, you'll probably find yourself going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but there are lots of information. And if you are looking for more information on smartphone kind of features, I know AbilityNet have some stuff on their website, and so does RNID if you want to explore that more.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. That was a really concise whistle-stop tour there. I'm not going to dwell on this now. I will come back to it in a second. But for now, Chris, if I pass over to you, do you have questions coming through?
Yeah, one question has come out, and I think I'll open it to the panel. Someone's asked, different countries use different sign languages. How is this managed by a company like Microsoft, which is global? I think that's a great question. Maybe even Jassal or Mark, maybe for you.
Oh, Mark, I think you're on mute.
Yes, so the web address, it's like microsoft.com/GB. That would be British Sign Language. And then if it's /.US, it's American Sign Language, and so forth. So it's actually quite easy.
Great. Thanks for that, Mark. Jassal, I'm going to come to you in this one. This is an absolutely great one, I think, on the tech. It's come from Emma Deers. What technology is available for using a phone with a headset at work for phone and Teams? I have new Bluetooth capable headphones.
Yeah, so with the workplace, there can be several different things that can help. Some workplaces are very specific depending on the type of laptop you're using, the type of phone device you're using, as well as the type of hearing device, so the headset you're using. Now, generally, there tends to be lots of connectivity options. So sometimes you can do a direct input, or you can have that Bluetooth connection, but it's really specific with the type of device you use. The best advice is to use Access to Work. It's a funding pot which allows you to get someone to come and assess what you need for your workspace to make it as accessible as possible. And then they can recommend the right device for you. And they also provide it free of charge as well with your employer sometimes. So I would recommend looking at Access to Work if you need something specific to help you with your hearing.
Great, thank you. It's always great though, you know, when we've got all this new technology keeps coming out and folks are saying, you know, what can we do to make it better? Okay, yeah, Emma's just saying thank you, but so far they haven't replied yet. Hopefully you'll get a response in due course, Emma, fingers crossed. No other questions yet, Sarah, but probably I've just put in the chat if anyone does have questions to use the Q&A box and we can get them answered.
Okay, while we're waiting for any other questions to come through then, I'd just ask Mike and Jassal, this has been a trend that we've been following in terms of how COVID has affected different communities. And I just wonder if you'd like to share your insights as to, you know, where there have been improvements for the deaf community and some of the challenges that the people that you're working with have faced during these difficult times.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, it's been a tough time for everyone. The biggest issue we faced is face coverings. I mentioned in my presentation, lip reading is something people with hearing loss and deafness rely on heavily. And in the absence of being able to read lips, it's been really difficult for a lot of people. So we kind of had to work with government to make sure that there were kind of transparent, clear face masks available. And while those are easy for kind of public use, in the healthcare where they have to meet certain regulations, that's been a lot more difficult to achieve. And then the second biggest challenge has been around BSL content in government, kind of, you know, when they're telling everyone about what's going on, and in the updates, the daily briefings they had, BSL was absent, and it was a very clear problem for us, which we've had to try and influence government to start providing BSL in the briefings that they produce.
Yeah, and you might know more about this than me, but wasn't there an individual case that brought that to attention as well? And I think there was a positive outcome there, was there?
Yeah, luckily they were forced to provide this, but it's a shame that it had to kind of go in that direction. We saw other countries doing this right from the get-go and doing it really well, but unfortunately we really had to push government to provide the BSL.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder, I know there's a few questions coming in now, but just for you, Mark, I've seen quite a lot written about online meetings and the fact that closed captions are available, and that's great. But I come back to what you said earlier about your learnings, and also what Rachel said around BSL being many people's first language. And I wonder what your take is on how well that has been supported in those types of online meeting environments during the pandemic.
Again, it's hard, isn't it? I know Microsoft have had quite a lot of feedback. This is about all I know about this topic. I should point out that Microsoft have had quite a lot of feedback from sign language users across the piece, and are trying to implement some features into Teams. I mean, I think we've all, well, I have all struggled with the technology, so there's definitely room for improvement. My answer was going to be slightly different. I think the one silver lining to COVID is that organizations are really getting the fact that online systems have to be accessible and usable start to finish for all of us, because if you can't access face-to-face support, you can't pop in somewhere to sort out problems. So maybe that is one hidden positive.
And it's about that end-to-end journey as well, isn't it? I was really struck by what Rachel said about her trip to the supermarket, you know, that kind of fail at the end where she got there and there wasn't that SMS support. That really highlights that end-to-end journey as well. Chris, if we can see the numbers going up, are there any more questions coming through?
Yeah, there's a fair few. We'll start with Emma on the chat box. She says, actually, I'll merge these two questions into one. So Lizzie Cass Moran says, I've struggled to find a face mask that is see-through but breathable. Is there a good solution or good work happening for this? And then on the flip side, Emma's saying on the chat, I know our surgical theatre team have looked at getting see-through masks as well as visors when we have the deaf patients. We also do our best to source a BSL interpreter, so that's always good to know. But I'll open that question up to the panel around good face masks, as that's something that's going to be common, I think, for a while still.
Yeah, so there is one face mask that's available for clinical use, and we have encouraged all health providers to start using this when they have someone with hearing loss or a BSL user that requires this. But unfortunately, it comes around deaf awareness. As most people with hearing loss will know, there is poor deaf awareness amongst the general public, and that includes healthcare providers. So really making them aware that this is required. And unfortunately, the onus does fall more on the person to tell them that they need this. They are available, but unfortunately, it does depend how aware the service is of these things that are available to them to use.
Thank you. Mark, I'll come to you the next one, please. Is it possible to implement Signlane languages as Norwegian?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. That's a great answer. So a nice, simple answer. Yes. Tell us, how can they implement it that way?
So we won't get too technical, but basically, Signly sits on Microsoft's tech stack, Azure. So Signly, once a little bit of code is dropped into the content management system of a website, and it takes like less than 5 hours to do that. So whoever runs the website has got to do about 5 hours work. Then Signly grabs all of the text, literally fires it straight into the auto queue of the deaf translator. They work from home. They don't need a studio environment. They don't need a camera person and an editor. They stand in front of the auto key, a foot pedal starts recording, they sign the content, press the foot pedal again, the content spins up for them to review it and check they're happy. They can peer moderate it and send it to another translator, although generally that's not needed. And the next push of the pedal sends it into Azure and it instantly appears on the website. So the whole process is pretty quick and simple. If the web page changes at all, we see that there's not a match instantly. And so if a paragraph has changed, let's say it's got an interest rate, it's only one character that's changed, then that paragraph will be removed and it says we're just translating a new piece of content. The rest of the page is visible. And yeah, it's that quick and easy.
Great. Sounds very easy. Just I'll come back to yourself, and I'm going to merge these two questions, more kind of tech questions. One from Cara Henderson saying, where do you each actually, I'll leave that one for now, actually. I'll come to Rick. I'll come back to that one. How well does the deaf community like auto captions for live captioning in Zoom, MS Teams, good or bad? So what do you hear within the RNID? What's people's kind of comments?
Yeah, so obviously with people using these systems more, at the beginning of lockdown, we did try and do a little bit of kind of research to see how people were getting on with the different platforms, and it's so variable. Live captions can be really difficult as soon as there's a poor internet connection, if there are accents, depending on the type of device they're using, it can really vary in terms of the clarity and the speed. It's really difficult to say which one is better than the other. People just have different experiences of them all. What we have advised is, especially for important calls, like if you're talking to a healthcare provider, if you're talking to your bank, anything like that, the best way is still to use a text relay assistant where you have someone physically typing what is being said so that the accuracy and the speed is better in that situation.
Excellent. And I suppose we've obviously got our live captioning here today, and I know lots of more organizations are pushing towards live captioning instead of using the inbuilt. But yeah, thank you, Trish. Always appreciated. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, Jassal. I'm going to ask you both the same question. Mark, I'll start with you, though. Feels a bit like question time on TV just now. Where do you see assistive technology going in the future for all for the community?
Well, it's not a panacea, as we said earlier. I think what is interesting, and I didn't expect this, is that it can start good conversations. Tech starts good conversations because we all like a shiny new piece of tech, right? So sometimes we showed Signly and people go, that's great. And then they say, why do we need that? Why is the text not enough? So, but I think ultimately, change happens because of awareness and culture. And actually, the tech bit is quite easy by comparison. I thought that creating the tech would be really hard. By in comparison to actually the awareness issues that are out there, and finding organizations that have the right culture and the passion and do care, that's actually the hard bit.
Oh, you make a good point there.
Chris, can I hop in with a question there?
Of course I can, Sarah.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I wondered, as you were talking earlier, Mark, and also maybe for Jassal, of the role of people from the community as user testers, actually, and what role you see in terms of that, and whether there's a greater awareness of that need for including deaf people and people with hearing loss as part of the development of the assistive technology as we go forwards. Don't know if anyone wants to take that one.
Well, I think in terms of developing a product, then you're always going to have your users hopefully close to the heart of what you do. When I said earlier, it was deaf users that said, could you move this technology onto websites? It was really their idea. And so that needs to be almost like an ongoing conversation. I think in corporates, it's quite difficult for them to have that ongoing dialogue. And so sometimes there's a lack of awareness, and because it's quite hard. Well, it's quite hard to complain full stop, but if you're deaf, it's possibly even harder. So these issues are not coming across the corporate's desk every day, because the voices aren't being heard. So yeah, I guess just having that regular dialogue with customers and users it's obvious, but maybe it just doesn't happen enough.
I guess the same is true in that advocacy space as well. Would that be fair to say, Jassal, on that front?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's starting to become more of a normal culture with tech developers to use users and have them at the center of development. And that's a really great thing, because previously we often found someone would come to us and say, oh, I think this would be really useful for someone with hearing loss or someone who's a BSL user. And then there'd be a gaping problem with the solution because they just didn't talk to the person who was going to be using it at the end. So, you know, I can't see a reason for people not to use the users when they're developing these things. Unfortunately, it is becoming more and more normal, from very small startups to the big kind of tech companies. And we are seeing them come to a head. You know, the traditional assistive devices that were built specifically for certain people, they're starting to kind of wind down, and people want mainstream technology to be accessible and to be usable for everyone. So, you know, there's a real incentive for even the really big tech companies now to make sure that their devices are accessible for everyone.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Sorry, Chris, any more questions?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it gets confusing between the chat and the Q&A. There's a lot of talk around audiology and people struggling with the audiology departments through masks and through support. So that was quite interesting, just reading some of that on the chat. I'm going to merge these two into one. Obviously, I'm cautious of time. Both tech questions, so I'll come to you first, Mark, if that's okay. How can I increase the volume on the computer above 100%? I didn't even know you could do it. Can you?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. It reminds me of Spinal Tap. Go up to 11. So, no, I don't know.
Jess, I'll come to you now.
Yeah, on the device itself, you can't. There are health and safety considerations as well. When we're talking about, you know, every user, we don't want to damage people's hearing as well. So there will be a cap on all devices as to how much you can increase the volume. If you do need more volume than what you're getting from the device alone, you need to again start using an assistive device that connects to it. It can be as easy as a speaker that attaches to it so that you just get a bit more volume, or you can have specific headphones that have kind of sound enhancement features to help you as well. So unfortunately, there's no going above that 100%, but you can have additional devices to give you that little bit more boost if you need it.
Great. Based still on that volume part then, Maggie Kirby Barr is also asking, where can I get help with variable volume levels linked with my Auticon streamer? Any ideas, Jassal?
I'm not sure I understand the question fully, but if you are having difficulties with your Auticon streamer, the first point is to go back to your audiologist, because these things are set up very specifically to work with your Auticon hearing aids, and outside of the kind of details and the connection that they have at the clinic, it's really difficult for anyone else to make any of those adjustments. So that's your first point of contact. Often, if you contact the manufacturer Oticon themselves, they will have someone in the tech team that can talk you through a lot of these things as well. So those two are probably the first place to start if you have any difficulties or you want to make any adjustments.
Great. And Sebastian saying in the chat, is like saying what you've just said there, the advice really needs to come from the audiologist, and Oticon tech support are really good. So there we are. So thank you for that, Sebastian. And just kind of a final comment, I think that's been made by Lee Downs in the chat. I believe that a link from staff networks to corporate executive teams is vital, as the lived experience on the ground can pass on the gaps in missing tech and need to progress and invest with urgency. Very much correct. Great point, Lee. That's all the questions, Sarah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Chris, for walking us through those. I'm just going to do a time check. I think we've probably got time to expand on one more. So, Jess, I was wondering if I could come back to you just to talk about the sort of smartphone type devices and how people go about accessing the accessibility features on those. We've certainly noticed that they are being brought more to the surface. I was just wondering if you could give us a bit more detail on what's available and how people can access those across different platforms, just to signpost people in a bit more detail there.
Sure. Just to note, it's not just with smartphones. You'll probably find it on your laptops, your PCs, almost every device you have. If you go into the settings folder, within that, there'll be an accessibility folder. It starts from basic adjustments like volume, but more and more companies are now providing personalized sound. And that means some of them will allow you to take a hearing test, a basic hearing test, and adjust the sound automatically based on that test. Others, you kind of adjust it yourself. Some of them will have preset levels, so they would suggest someone who struggles with a mild hearing loss, use that setting. Someone with a slightly more severe loss, use different settings. So that's kind of the minimum features that we've seen in a lot of the new devices. You'll often get the loop system as a default feature in your smart and mobile phones as well, and that can really help. Bluetooth is also really great. By streaming that sound directly into your ear, it removes a lot of that background noise when you're trying to make a phone call, and it provides the sound into both ears as opposed to just holding the phone on one side. And that can really help improve phone calls for people as well. Play around with the accessibility features. I think the problem is people don't often know they exist for hearing loss, but they are there, and just advise everyone to have a play around with them.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you very much. So I'm going to end the webinar there, but before I do, I just wanted to say a final thank you to the panelists, and also to Victoria and Rachel, who gave me their time to create those videos before the event. It's a shame they weren't with us today, but great to hear from them anyway. And thank you to everybody who has attended the webinar, asked questions. As I said, there will be an email follow-up with all the information, and also some additional links to some fact sheets that we have and some resources on our own website as well. Thank you to the BSL and Caption support for today as well, and to Chris for supporting me in the background and fielding those questions. And I hope everybody has a fantastic day. So thank you very much, and goodbye.